most people would consider that a pretty dramatic career transition to go from being a journalist to getting into medicine. Was that a scary transition for you?
Our feelings tell us a lot about our current state and what we may decide to act on. So I was lacking an inner fulfillment. I had a fall, so many years ago and sustained an internal injury that was hard to heal. I was in pains for over 10 years.
When you talk about most people breathe for survival, do you mean it's a very kind of high level, like chest, very shallow, short breaths?
We are all guilty of shallow, short breaths because we have evolved to breathe that way unconsciously.
Today, I've got a very exciting guest joining us today. I am joined by Kelechi Obasi, based in Nigeria. Kelechi is driven by a genuine desire to empower individuals to reclaim their health and unlock their inner healing potential. Kelechi has dedicated his life to understanding the intricacies of holistic medicine, self-healing techniques, and the transformative power of plant and herbal medicine. With an extensive background in holistic healthcare and deep-rooted belief in the body's innate ability to heal itself, he guides and supports people on their unique wellness journey. His mission is to unveil the transformative healing potential that lies dormant in each of us. Through their nurturing guidance and exceptional expertise, they empower individuals to regain control over their health, embarking on a holistic and empowering path of self-discovery and well-being. And by seamlessly blending ancient wisdom with cutting-edge research, they are redefining the boundaries of what is possible in the realm of self-healing and holistic healthcare. Kelechi, it is an absolute pleasure to have you join us on the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the show as well.
I'd love if you could take us back to the start of your journey. And was it always in you to heal people, or how did you get started on this journey?
Well, I had always known that there was something different about me from a very tender age, but I didn't know what it was. But at some point, I developed an unusual compassion for people who were suffering, people who had various health challenges.
Right. So you felt drawn to people that were sick, who weren't doing well.
Yeah, yeah, I had compassion for them. And I would always go to them and say a word of prayer. I had always been doing that from when I was much younger because I felt that whatever it was I was doing could support healing or alleviate the pain that they were going through at the moment. Yeah. And then at some point in my life, I became very interested in other things. Not that I had forgotten who I was, but I was getting disconnected from the core of my being by the expectations of this world. And so I started building ambitions, and the ambitions led me to studying and learning certain things. Got into a profession which I admired so much. I've been a journalist for many years, practiced professionally at three different media outfits, and then I became a freelance journalist afterwards. So I was fascinated with the idea of integrating into the society and being very useful, especially for the service of the people. Talking about objective journalism, saying the truth when every other media outfit is telling the lie, you know, and there
Yeah,
were
well, I
several
find
things.
like being being a being a journalist again, I feel like is a very interesting life trajectory, because I view journalists, at least the good ones, right, is your job is basically to investigate, to do research, to talk to people, to understand what's really going on. And I'm curious, do you feel like those skills have transferred over, that in your work in understanding holistic healing, that kind of journalistic background has helped you to like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what works, what doesn't work. Let's talk to the experts, right?
Yes, for sure. One thing journalism triggers or awakens within you is curiosity. So you express it as an unconscious action most of the time. So you are very curious about things. You want to find out things. You want to know the real thing. A journalist awakened that quality within me. And then at some point, when I started my healing journey and found myself in the holistic health industry, that curiosity was also there. That curiosity was the motivation behind my quest for healing and how to find healing and support for others because I had to find what works. I had to find what works.
Okay. And was there a moment, because most people would consider that a pretty dramatic career transition to go from being a journalist to getting into medicine. Was that a scary transition for you? Was it exciting? What was the moment when you realized, you know what? The current trajectory I'm on is not the path that I want to be on and I need to make a change.
It comes from, I usually tell people that how you feel is all you need. Our feelings tell us a lot about our current state and what we may decide to act on. So I was lacking an inner fulfillment within me. I had
Mm-hmm.
all I had all the applause. I had all the friends. I had everyone applauding me and supporting me, you know, uh, to go a certain path. But then, deeply within me, I knew that there was something more. Yeah, there was something more. And that thing
Right.
wanted to express itself. Yes. And because the spirit which inhabits the body is what makes us feel the way we feel sometimes. I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't feeling happy because the spirit within me was not doing what it was supposed to be doing at that time. So I was feeling restless until I started paying attention to certain things within my own life, especially my health. Yeah, I suddenly realized that I had health challenges.
Right. So you had this right. And I would like to talk more about that too, but you had this feeling inside of you that like what you were doing day to day, your day job, right? While it was good work and you were proud of what you were doing, it still wasn't speaking to your like it wasn't speaking to your soul. You knew that you had something more inside of you that was more valuable that you could give and share with the world. Was there
Absolutely.
a specific moment where that all came together and you said I need to make a change, or was it just kind of a gradual feeling and eventually you just decided to do it?
It was a moment. It was a moment. So people like me are very good at waking up one morning and changing their mind about anything. I don't know why it is like that.
Right. Yeah, I'm probably guilty of that too.
Yeah. So at some point in my life, I had this feeling that my life was going to move into a totally different path. And I was ready for it. I was ready for it. And so I was having some kind of supernatural guidance. I would hear things, I would see visions. And sometimes in my dream, I would, see things. So the name Lotus Potential Holistics, that doesn't sound like a usual name.
Right. That's
Yeah, Lotus Potential.
right. That's the name of your healing practice.
Yeah, that's the name of my holistic health organization, Lotus Potential Holistics. I got that name from a dream. I had a
Hmm.
dream one night and it was revealed to
Okay.
me, Lotus Potential. All right. And so I woke up in the morning and I tried to find out what Lotus Potential meant. And when I found out what it meant, I realized that it was just a confirmation of the mission that I was already on. And so I decided to just go all in into holistic health field.
Okay, so you had a powerful dream that kind of shook you up one night and you're like, okay, this is the moment. It's time for a change.
Yes, the health challenges that I had motivated that drive. I had to find a solution, so I had to go that path.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to Are you comfortable to share what some of the health challenges you're experiencing were?
Yes, I had a fall so many years ago, and that fall damaged something within me. And then it was an internal injury that I sustained that was hard to heal.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? So you had a fall?
Yeah, I had a fall, so many years ago and sustained an internal injury that was hard to heal. Okay, so that internal injury caused a very painful sensation that I would usually feel, and only I could explain it. No other person could understand it. All right, so I went different places looking for a solution, for that health challenge, for the pain. I just wanted the inflammation to disappear. But then there was no solution to it. So I lived with that condition for many years.
Right. You were saying I was gonna say, yeah, when we were talking off camera, you mentioned this is something that you were suffering with for many, many years, right?
Yes, I lived with it for over 10 years. I was in pains for over 10 years. Yeah.
Over
Uh,
10 years, okay?
yeah, for over 10 years. I hadn't found a solution to it. But then at some point, it became very difficult to ignore. Okay, I knew that if I would live a long life and have
Right.
my own family, my children, raise my offspring, and be there for them, even into old age, I needed to heal myself. I had no excuse. Yeah, so I became very curious and started reading and learning about holistic health, alternative medicine, holistic health practices, all that. And then I started getting connected to some individuals who were there. They played a very significant role in my life. As I was coming up, they supported me. They gave me ideas on how to heal myself. I took courses. Yeah. I learned practices. I aligned with people in the same industry. And then I was able to learn certain things from them, just like they
Right. So
did
I
learn
I
from
like
me.
to well, I like that your journey started with a like self-healing journey, right? Because like where I'm going with this question is I find in life, right, especially to make a big change, we need a lot of motivation. Like we need a driving force to be like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to study this thing. I'm going to start a new business, right? And we really need that driving force. And so for you, because this is something that you personally were experiencing in your own issues that were causing you a lot of pain and suffering, that helped to give you that driving force to say, I got to deal with this. I got to take care of this. I don't care what I have to learn, what teachers I have to seek out. I'm committed. I gotta figure this out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Because at some point, I knew that I was made for more. I didn't want to just die because when I looked at the situation of things, I felt that I wasn't going to live very long. I had already shortened my lifespan in my mind,
Okay.
and things started playing out that way. It started looking as if I wasn't going to live that long. But then one day I woke up and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I thinking this kind of thoughts? I should be thinking positive thoughts and not negative thoughts. You know, that day changed everything. I started thinking in the positive.
Yes, think
Well,
more positively and optimistically.
of course, I knew that there was nothing impossible, and even though the challenge was something that no one could understand, I felt that there was no physical damage in any part of my body. It was just a kind of mental reminder that was planted in me to follow a certain path. Uh, when I got into holistic health practices, I started observing that there are various dimensions to approaching certain situations and getting the solutions that we seek.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then can you take us through to again your own healing journey? What was it for you that finally helped you to overcome your pain?
It was a radical belief that I was a fountain of healing, that I wasn't the one seeking healing, that I am the
Okay.
healing
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, yeah, that I'm the healing itself, and that there is too much of healing in me that I have become a fountain of it. So people come in contact with me, they receive healing in one form or
Okay. So yeah, now 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 we're almost talking like a philosophical worldview change, right? Of like
yeah,
you view yourself like I am the source of healing.
yeah, of course. I had to go through the pain of those health challenges to evolve to being able to believe this kind of thoughts. You see? Yeah.
And then take us through what were some of the practices that you implemented in your own life that helped you.
Okay, balancing the chakras is something
Okay.
that is very necessary for every human being in this world of today. Yeah, because it relaxes the nervous system and optimizes its functions. Okay. A psycho spiritual activity is a physiological activity as well because you are interacting with not just the mind, but with the body. You are trying to influence the chemistry of the body to achieve optimal homeostasis. So, balancing the chakra at least once in a week
Right.
is very, very great. And then breath work. Breath work has been the magic in my journey.
Is there a for for those people watching that are interested, or they're like, okay, balancing my chakras, let's go for it. Is there a practice that you can share, or is it fairly complicated?
It is not as complicated as it appears to be. The most important thing is the will to learn. So, if an individual wants to learn how these things work, then the person is halfway there. So, balancing the chakra
Okay.
is just about using the spiritual terms or the yogic terms for all of this can make it seem complicated, all right? But it's just about updating the nervous system. It's just like our phones, our devices, our laptops. Sometimes we may need to update the operating system so that it can function better. You know,
Right.
it is the same with balancing our chakras. So since it's a mental and physiological activity, so it's every breath goes with a certain imagination. Those imaginations are just colors of the various chakras, and colors have a function that they perform when introduced to the brain. That's what we call color psychology. The brain feels a certain way and acts a certain way when it interprets a certain color. So if you can imagine that color while drawing breath, thinking about how that particular part of your energy field is being updated, then you would feel physical benefits relating to that aspect of your health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go on. You mentioned breath work. Breath work is a very important practice. Can you share some, because I know there's many different breathwork techniques. Can you share some that you found most effective for you?
Yes.
And why is breathwork so effective?
Okay. Breathwork is so effective because what we consider breath, oxygen, is not just oxygen. There is a healing force that is in that substance. So when it goes into the body absorbs the healing substance and exhales carbon dioxide, right? Okay. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens is When a baby is born, the baby takes in a very deep breath and yells out a wild cry. And then when an old man is dying, he just takes a sigh. And that's the end. So life is a long story of breathing in and breathing out. However, humans have evolved to not breathe in properly. So humans mostly breathe for survival. But then there is a way to breathe to heal, breathing to heal. I call it intragenetic. It's about stimulating the survival tendencies of your body. So the body is used to
Okay. Okay.
breathing in and breathing out. All right. So when you take in oxygen
And
for a
so
moment,
just to be clear, so when you talk about most people breathe for survival, do you mean it's a very kind of high level like chest, very shallow short breaths, kind of like that?
of course, we are all guilty of shallow, short breaths because we have evolved to breathe that way unconsciously. Okay. So we think it's just the normal breathing. We are breathing normally. But that's not the case. Human beings were first primal beings and tribal beings. They used to travel in tribes in their prime. So they were designed to hunt. They were designed to travel, to move, to run. But then modern society has forged men into sitting in the offices, all right? It has forged men
Yes,
into
sitting
standing in
all
certain
day in
ways.
the office in the
Yeah,
chair.
standing in the queue, walking at the site, inhaling certain substances, drinking some kind of untreated water. Modern society has affected the way that we were originally designed to function. And so what happens is that over
Right.
time, people start taking in short breaths and not diaphragmatic breaths, chest breaths. Okay, that's what I mean by breathing wrongly.
Okay, so you're talking about having deep breathing deep into your belly, kind of a full, slow breath.
Yes, if you want to learn how to breathe properly, you have to go to babies. Newborn babies have a lot to teach us. We are the ones that are devolving them. We should go close to them to evolve because they came in with a lot of intelligence. Okay, so newborn babies practice various types of breathing that I have witnessed. Okay, and one of the major breathing styles that can help us to live longer and have more vitality and energy and evade sickness is just like you pointed out, diaphragmatic breath. So taking deep, long breaths, into the lungs, filling the lungs as a matter of fact, filling the lungs and exhaling slowly. But then, because the modern society has not provided that privilege for people to consciously do this, you know, it then takes another level of awareness for an individual to carve out a certain moment of the day, to breathe properly, to meditate, to take in these deep
Right.
breaths.
What can you share what is it about deep diaphragm breathing, like deep slow breathing versus shallow breathing? Why is it better? Why is it beneficial?
Okay, the thing is that we have the heart, which is a significant organ that contributes to our daily survival because of its functions. It pumps blood.
Yeah, the heart is pretty important.
Yeah, so the heart pumps rich oxygen rich red blood cells, blood, and sends into the bloodstream. It goes, travels around the
Mhm.
body, travels out of the ventricles. And then when it comes back, you can see that the blood is no longer as clean as it was because it has interacted with the bloodstream of the entire being. All right, collecting toxins, collecting different things that
Mhm.
have been in the system. And so what happens is when we are taking in short breaths, we are allowing the oxygen rich blood which the heart is producing to circulate within the body. And so what happens is the oxygen rich blood is sent out to nourish the body. And then when it goes out to nourish the body while traveling through the bloodstream, it gathers toxins, heavy metals, and then it returns it back to the heart for the heart to recycle the process. But then when the heart is constantly receiving that kind of feedback, it damages the heart at the long run. Okay. So what happens is
Mm-hmm.
when you take in a large quantity of oxygen or breath, the blood that is supposed to circulate and go back to the heart is actually distributed, especially to the lungs. There are capillaries in the lung walls, in the walls of the lungs, okay? And these capillaries they are blood vessels. They are very thin. Let me make it very pictorial for you. If you go into the lungs, it's like a spongy space. All right. Within it, it's spongy.
Right.
Now, at a microscopic level, those sponges are actually blood vessels. Okay. And so, because oxygen is
Okay.
what it takes to pump blood, it has a direct relationship with the heart. And so what happens is when the oxygen-rich blood goes out of the heart and then it circulates the bloodstream and comes back, it is then sent into the lungs because these spongy blood vessels, these capillaries that are in the walls of the lungs, actually what then would contain the toxic blood because the lung
Okay.
is not stretched to its highest capacity because of short breaths. However, if you take in large breaths,
Okay. So I'm
what okay, if you
I was
take
gonna say, so
in
I'm curious here, right? So for somebody who, let's just say we want to share a practice with people. Let's say people are feeling anxious, they're feeling nervous, and they want to just be able to relax, to calm down. Maybe they want to get ready to be able to sleep at night. Are there any practices that you can share for to help somebody to get themselves out of a tense, nervous state and get into a nice, calm, relaxed state?
yes, and it's a simple breathwork technique, is what I call the I wouldn't have an exact term for it because it's something that I have just recently formulated for
Still in
myself.
development, still in
Yeah,
research.
I've seen that it works, okay?
Yeah,
But I can
that's
explain
fine.
it. I can explain it, all right? Okay. So how it works is just taking in a deep breath and holding it in, okay? You
So
take in a
nice,
deep breath,
nice, nice deep breath.
yeah, you take in a deep breath and you hold it in for some time. And then when it feels uncomfortable, just a little uncomfortable, then you can exhale. Yeah.
So would you say like hold it for 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds?
Depending on the capacity of the lungs. That is why some of these practices should be done with a
Okay.
breathwork guide. Some people have a lung capacity that can extend for a long duration of time. And then some people also do not have that capacity. But then this is how it works. If you take in the deep breath for 10 seconds, you would have to exhale slowly for 5 seconds. If you take in a deep, long breath for 20 seconds, you have to exhale slowly for 10 seconds. Okay, that's how it works. So it helps to relax the nervous system and, call one back to its center.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So having long, slow, deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out, and then doing that for like, would you recommend somebody do that for a couple of minutes? Like how long should somebody be doing a breathwork exercise
I would
approximately?
suggest, I would recommend for an average individual to do that for 4 times, especially in the morning. I do not advise that one should do this at night because it may distort the person's sleeping for that night. So you do it in the morning most of the time.
Okay.
To,
So you recommend doing a breathwork exercise in the morning. That was my next question in terms of like, is there any routines that you recommend? Okay, first thing in the morning, lunchtime. Sounds like you're saying don't recommend doing it before bedtime.
Yes, I don't recommend doing this before bedtime. You do it in the morning.
Okay. Okay. I know we're about at time here. If for anybody who's been interested in what you've had to say and they're interested in connecting with you, maybe working with you directly, where can people find you?
Okay, we would make sure that my links, a collection of my links are provided, where you can have my
We will
personal
share your
details.
links below in the show notes.
Yeah, this is Lotus Potential Holistics across all social media platforms on Facebook,
Okay.
on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everywhere. We are worldwide.
Fantastic. And any last thoughts here that you'd like to share with people before we wrap up today?
The most important thing that I have come to learn recently is that fear is an illusion. And so,
Fear
whatever,
is an illusion. Okay, that's a big statement, but I like it.
yeah, so whatever you want to do sometimes, fear is usually an obstacle. But then once you realize that it's just an illusion that you have to transcend, everything gets much easier from there.
Everything gets better. Fantastic. Well, Kelechi, it has been an absolute pleasure connecting with you today, hearing your story, talking about your healing journey, and also how you help other people on their journeys towards healing. So I've really enjoyed this conversation and connecting with you, and I feel like you've had a lot of wisdom to share with everybody. So thank you for joining us here today, and I do look forward to keeping in touch and hearing more about your journey and as your business grows and things take off from here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the time too, and it's an honor being in the show. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kalechi. Until next time.
Yeah, thank you.